the first thing that most startups do is they look at the opportunity and then they jump into it. So they don't sit down to discuss, you know, and plan. So, for example, if you're going to get into a partnership with someone or if you're going to start a business, you know, what is your business plan? And what are the things that you think will be important for you to succeed in your business? For example, I always tell people, you know, you can always find a good lawyer who will be willing to help you. You will always be able to find a good accountant or a tax consultant who will be willing to share something with you. Before you start your business, it's important for you to understand what are the legal compliances and governances that go into it. When I was a startup, you know, I made so many mistakes. I defaulted in paying taxes. You know, I didn't know how to file this, how to file that. So every penny I was making, I was paying in taxes, and not just taxes, but the government in Tanzania charges you taxes plus penalties plus interest.
Yeah.
So I could see all my money going there.
Yeah.
But you know, had I had good guidance earlier, I would know what to do. Because of that experience, actually, I do a lot of free legal advice to startups, and I sit with entrepreneurs and I give them free advice as well, because I face that. So there are many people like myself that are willing to help, but the problem is people don't want to reach out. So if they reach out, they will notice that there are so many out there, lawyers, accountants, tax consultants who can do that. So the first step is to understand the legal compliances and the governances that go into the business. But number two, it's very important if you're going into a partnership or a company setup, sit down with your shareholders and your partners and define your roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
A lot of startups face challenges, especially when they start making it on, so who's supposed to do what, you know? And then you start interfering into people's roles and responsibilities, or you start holding somebody accountable of something, whereas maybe they were not even responsible for it. And so these mistakes are done because people don't sit down and make a partnership agreement or a shareholders agreement that says, I will do this and you will do this. And in some startups, some people come with money, some people come with sweat equity. Again, what is your role? What are you going to be doing? Who's going to be doing what? Everything needs to be on paper. You know, historically, even different scriptures in religion say you need to put things in writing.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not in writing, it will always be misguiding and it will always lead to miscommunication and misunderstanding. So I would say for startups, it's important, put things on paper and don't just go chasing that opportunity you have.
So from what you said, I have two questions. One, you said that you do give free guidance. Now, for the people that are watching, or even myself, so if I do want to reach out, how can someone reach out to you to get these free guidance? My second question is, you talked about partnership, that people should lay out what to do. So I have a specific question. So say I was to partner up with my co-host right now, and we both have a similar vision to something that we want to achieve through this partnership, and we have not determined, for example, the shares yet or anything of that sort, but we both know that this is what we want to do, this is what we want to achieve. Now we've done it and it went well, but through doing that, we saw, for example, he managed to bring in through his network, he managed to bring in more money, or through his sweat, he managed to do more than what I could do. But if you go back in time, that we did not determine the shares. So how do you come back now to sit down, for example, for you to come tell me that I think I deserve 70% of this because I did this and this and this, but I go back to him and say, well, we never agreed on that, so why should you get that? How would you describe this type of situation?
Do you want me to answer the second one first or the first one?
I think the first one's just easy. I'd like to hear the second one first.
Okay. So one of the things I know that when we get into business, our motivation is always to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But as partners, it's very important for you to set aside that that money aspiration and say, if we're going in as partners, then whatever somebody is going to bring in will be 50-50 unless we're putting it in writing. Because you have to appreciate that both of you started this. It was both of your dream, it was both of your vision. And that now that one has brought in more money doesn't mean that he walks away with more money. When you go with that mentality, you will not reach your end goal, which is to create a legacy.
Yeah.
To create something that would be a sustainable brand. Because you want to have your internal organization's core values and core purposes and your business strategy to have a sustainable business in future. Now, when you start at such a young age, thinking that if somebody's brought 70 million, now he needs to take 50 and I get 20, all of a sudden you will now start despising that person, because no matter what, each one did put in some time. It doesn't matter who brought in the client. So make sure that if you don't have anything in writing, then learn to say, whatever we bring in to the table, we will split. I used to have a partner, and sometimes I recall I used to bring in a lot of money, but every time I made money, I gave him 50% of it, and without asking, because I knew that whenever I called upon him to come to a meeting or to show up for a client instead of me, he showed up. So he deserves it, and that's how I worked.
And this is, you decided to give him the 50%, no that he asked. Okay. Now, when you go back to the first question, people
The first
reaching out.
person, I mentioned to you that I'm a very simple person who lives a very simple life. So you can share my phone number, you can share my email address, you can share my LinkedIn profile. They can reach out to me however they want to. I do not discriminate on what platform somebody reached out to me at. As long as somebody has the right intention and wants to grow, wants to be successful, wants to know, wants to learn, if I can contribute something to somebody's life, that makes me happy.